Poor leadership and management, inefficient supervision, lack of accountability, and inadequate teacher training contribute to poor learning outcomes experienced in Ghana's schools.
Acting Chief Director of the Ministry of Education, Divine Ayijo, he reveals that in most cases, teachers who become leaders in educational institutions don't have the requisite training to efficiently handle the associated responsibilities, resulting in bad outcomes.
Many school leaders have not undergone professional preparation for their role beyond their years of experience teaching in the classroom, which impacts children's learning outcomes. The Ministry of Education intends to reform the quality and the pathways into school leadership, from basing the pathway to becoming a head teacher on years of service to enabling earlier career teachers who demonstrate quality teaching and learning and leadership talent to become head teachers sooner.
Mr. Ayijo says the Ministry of Education intends to change that with the introduction of the National Education Institute, which will be responsible for the continuous training of all who wish to become heads of institutions.
The Ministry of Education plans to set up a National Education Institute as a permanent institution dedicated to educational leadership training for the ministry to offer long-term, tailor-made leadership programs with certification for current and aspiring school heads and staff of agencies of the Ministry of Education.
Dr. Charles Yeboah, the Executive Director of the Association of Supervisors and Curriculum Development, says the program targets some 70,000 educational leaders and expects to train 25% of them by 2026.
So from the ministry, we know that about 70,000 people that will have to be trained over time, right? We are starting with, but by 2025, the ministry and the minister's vision is that by 2025, 25% of that number has gone through some training. We want to make it as practical and as impactful as possible, So we want to make it as impactful and practical as possible. So the whole idea is that by 2025, 25% of the 70,000 people being targeted across the country in various areas of education leadership have been reached.
Director General of the Institute for Educational Planning and Administration at the University of Cape Coast, Dr. Michael Boachi Yadom, cautioned that the project will only make an impact if it is sustained.
Sustainability. We must ensure that the program is sustainable. If the first few years are funded externally, for instance, we must have a financial sustainability plan so that if the funding expires in 2 years or in 3 years, for instance, then we don't throw away work done within that 2 or 3 years. So financial sustainability is important. In terms of legislation, we must have something in place that will ensure continuity. In terms of policy, we must have something in place to ensure continuity so that we don't waste resources, we don't spend resources on a particular program for 2-3 years and then come back and say government A or Minister B doesn't want us to continue and we should throw it away.
The ministry hopes to pilot the program come January 2023 with support from Jacob's Foundation and Big Win Philanthropy. For Joy News, Michael Ashale.